Hello, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do split stitch. So I've drawn out some little lines onto the fabric here just to show you that you can use split stitch to do straight lines. It's very good for doing details and curvy lines, and you can also use it as a filling stitch. So what I thought I'd do is show you how to do it in different types of thread. So this is just standard stranded cotton, and I'm going to use all 6 strands to start off with, just to show you how that looks. So make a sort of around about ½ centimetre stitch, and then bring the needle back up through the middle of all the thread and the stitch itself. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry, I haven't got the light mastered yet. I'll sort it out for you. And then do another approximately ½ centimetre long stitch. Then you come back up, right in the middle of things, and it creates a nice, it's a sort of slightly textured line. I have to be honest, this isn't one of the stitches I use an awful lot, but this is one of my mum's favourites. You know, a lot of people have kind of, I don't know, 4 or 5 sort of favourite stitches, and this is one of my mum's. So using the 6 strands of stranded cotton, it's creating quite a thick line that would be very good as a filling stitch, because it would fill things up nice and quickly. But it is, for a stem or something, unless you were doing quite a chunky piece of work, it would look quite thick. Now I tend to leave the threads poking out so that I know exactly what threads I've been using for what stitches. So I should just chop that off here. And now I'm going to show you with 2 strands, which is what I tend to use as standard for most embroidery. There we go. Now I know some people hate knots, but I always use knots, so do whatever works for you. So we'll just do the same again, do a little line of stitches down here. You'll notice, of course, it's much thinner because it's one of the disadvantages of using a knot. It's pulled the thread through. There we go. You'll notice with the thinner thread, it almost looks a little bit like chain stitch because it's just pushed straight through the middle of the 2 strands in that first case. And this would be much more delicate for a stem or something like that. I'm just going to show you in some, the basic threads that you can kind of pick up in most shops, most embroidery shops. There we go, so you can see the difference between those 2 quite easily. There we go. Sorry if you can hear that cat squeaking in the background. Always cats in my videos. Now this is a perlé. This is a variegated perlé. Just again show you the sort of how the different threads work, how they look. This should be quite nice because of the changing colour. It'll add a little bit of interest. I'm going to try a little curvy line. So again, if you keep your stitches quite short, Should be nice and a nice accurate way to fill in. Sorry if you can hear that cat. She wants to go outside. We've got a new kitten who's not allowed outside, so everyone's now must be let in by hand, as it were. So she's squeaking because she wants to come in. All right. Don't forget you can also sort of move the thread around a little bit like you would with a stem stitch, just to get it to go exactly where you want on a curve like that. The 6 threads do seem to have give a much nicer effect for this stitch. They sort of much more obvious, the actual shape of the split stitch. You can see it follows the shape very nicely. There we go. A little pause in proceedings while I go and let the cat out. Right, the cat has been let out, so hopefully there won't be any more squeaking. So I'm now going to use a machine embroidery thread. Well, it's not actually, this one is, but it's a thin thread like this. It's a variegated thread. I would use this one, but I've got this thread here, which, if I'm completely honest with you, I've never managed to find a use for. It doesn't really sit in the kind of work I do, so I'm going to use this one as an example, as you know, for the sample. So it's quite fine and it's variegated, but it's basically a machine embroidery thread. So what I'm going to do is choose 3 lengths of this. And this is particularly a tribute to my mum, because this is how she loves to do her split stitch, with often with machine embroidery thread. And you can use the shiny ones as well, but this is just what I happen to have, and as I say, it's not my favourite thread, so I get to use it for the samples. You can do this with, you can do most stitches with machine thread, just depending on what the stitch is. You can always use more thickness, you know, more lengths of thread. It can be a bit tricky because they can move about a bit in the needle, but as long as you're careful and you keep an eye on things, if you suddenly realise you've only got 2 strands, or that one of them's suddenly a lot shorter than the other, you can just have a quick rummage around the back and generally find the source of the problem. There we go. Right. See the little indie bits come through again, just because you're all watching. I'm sorry about the camera at the moment, it seems to be bleaching everything out terribly. I must attempt to fix that for the next video. Hopefully you can still see what's going on. I'll master the setup soon. See, this way I can go back and see exactly what I made the stitches with. I can look at that and think, oh, yep, that's 3 of those. That's what I want to recreate again. So now I'm going to finish off by showing you how to use, split stitch as a filling stitch. It's basically exactly the same as the other way of doing it, but you just keep going round and round in circles until you filled in the gap. So I'll show you the start, and then there'll be a quick moment in the time machine where everything changes. Woo! So I'm just going to follow this line around and then spiral round and round and round and round until there's no more places for stitches to go. Can take a little while, but it's again, if you choose a thicker thread like I've chosen the Perlé here, it shouldn't take too long. And hand embroidery is not really about speed anyway, is it? Otherwise we'd be in a different game. It's a nice thing that you can do while you're listening to the radio or in front of the television or something like that. You can just sort of slowly pootle along with it, and before you know it, the shape will be filled in and you're ready to go. The kind of embroidery my mum likes to do is she takes shapes, you know, like from colouring books, that kind of thing, and she prints them out onto the fabric and then colours them in with whatever she fancies, whether it's embroidery or beads or whichever stitches she fancies. So it's a useful technique to do. You know, you get to paint by numbers with embroidery. It's there we go. Oops, bit of a knot. Anyway, you get the idea. You've seen me show in Perlé with split stitch, so I'll keep going round, and when I've got to the end I'll show you what it looks like. So here we are. I finished doing the little filled stem stitch. So that's basically what you need to know about stem stitch. We've got the different stitches, different threads used here, that you can curl it and you can use it as a filling stitch. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to share it and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.